Okay, this is a quick start video to get you up and running with Zoom, the application that is taking the world by storm for holding virtual meetings. First thing you'll need to do is install it. So you can go and create a Zoom account online at zoom.us. You can also install the Zoom desktop client on your computer, and you might want to install the Zoom plugin for your browser and even the Zoom app for your mobile devices. Once you've done that, we can look at the setup. Part of your setup, if you're going to be running it on your computer, is to possibly use an external webcam. Now you can use the internal one, but if you are using an external one, there's an extra step, so we want to go through that. You'll want to, for example, if you're using the Logitech Brio, very popular webcam, download the Camera Settings app to enable you to configure and compose your picture first. Show you what I'm talking about. This is what your webcam is picking up, and you don't want to be broadcasting that in the net meeting. So what you'll do instead is you'll configure using those settings. So you'll zoom in and crop and change the color and lighting to get it exactly the way you want it. And on the right hand side we have the desired effect. So I've got just the cropped picture that I want to send into my virtual meeting. By taking the time to do that, it means that you can use a virtual background and your picture is going to look a hell of a lot better. Now, a couple of other steps. I've put a light in front of the laptop here, so it lights up the face. I've also put one to the side, so it lights up the side of the face. And that creates a much better picture in front. Now, webcams are very good at handling light, but if you do use these lights, you're going to see a much better picture. By having that cropped picture before we even start looking at Zoom, it means that we can create a virtual background. So what I've got here is a video background with a wavy blue squares waving behind me. And this is possible through the use of green screen technology. Now, Zoom is really good at using green screen, and it provides virtual backgrounds, and it makes it really easy to do this as long as you go to a little bit of bother at the start to make it a bit easier. Let's look at the toolbar and some of the settings. So here's the toolbar you're going to see in each one of your meeting rooms. Two buttons on the left hand side are probably the most important. We have the mute for turning the mic on and off, and that's for both participants and hosts. You'll want to turn your mic on and off at various times. Likewise for the webcam, you may not want to have your video on the whole time, so you can stop the video here. And it just toggles the state of these buttons. Now there's up arrows there as well. The up arrows change the sound settings. For example, on the first one, you can decide which microphone you're going to use. I've got quite a few on this system, and also where the sound is going to be heard. So you select your speaker. We also have video settings. Video settings allows you to specify which camera you're using. So in this case, I'm using the Logitech Brio 1 of 4. And once you've done that, you can then choose a virtual background, and I would recommend doing this so nobody sees your messy office. Okay, so here's the background, what was captured from that configuration we showed you a few moments ago. This is the actual webcam picture, and we're going to replace that with a virtual background. And you can see that the green, even though it's not a particularly good green screen, Zoom does a really good job at removing the entire background. So we can choose any one of the ones it provides. So we do that. I've highlighted here that if you have a solid green color behind you, you should select I have a green screen, because it works much better. If you don't have a solid color background behind you, you leave that unticked. It will still do the same type of job, just won't do it as well. It's a little bit soft, and if you move around, you'll see that it's not exactly perfect. So here I am changing on the right hand side a different background, and yet another one. This one I've actually uploaded myself. This is a photograph I took at the top of Cumshannon in Waterford in Ireland, and I can supply my own background. So that background can be an image or it can be a video, just by clicking on that plus button. You should use full HD quality though if you're going to do that. While we're in the settings, let's have a look at some of the others. This is the video settings, where you can specify your camera, the aspect ratio, whether you're using full HD or not. And there's two options there which I've unticked. One is mirror my video and the other is touch up my appearance. Touching up does the similar effect to Snapchat filters for softening your face and making you look younger. And mirroring, it just makes, when you raise your right hand, you'll see the hand straight opposite go up, as opposed to what you see with cameras, which it looks like it's the opposite hand you're raising. And you'll have to try that out to see what I'm talking about. General settings, important ones here. If you've got two monitors, I'd recommend using dual monitors, so you can do your monitoring on one, monitoring all the participants, doing your hosting job, and then use the other screen for what you want to share. And you can also add the Zoom controls, this toolbar I'm taking you through. You can add that to the operating system menu bar, which makes it a little bit easier to get at options if you get lost. There's also the recording tab, where you can specify the folder to save a recording of the meeting as a video. And if you are going to be sharing videos as part of your screen sharing, then it's important that you record the video during the screen sharing by ticking this box. Otherwise, when you play the video, it won't be seen in the recording. Profile tab allows us to go in and specify even more settings, which you get access to via the web portal. And these are defaults for setting up menus and meetings. I won't go into those just yet. We also have keyboard shortcuts. An important one here is the start screen share, which is Control Command S if you're on a Mac. This is quite useful to see this tab, because particularly if you're going to connect up a hardware controller, something like a Stream Deck, these are the keystrokes you'll want to program into your macros. Next, we have scheduling a meeting. So you've got all your hardware set up, you're ready to run a meeting, you need to schedule one. So you need to set that up. So you log into the web portal, you go to meetings, and then you click on schedule a new meeting. Very easy. It gives you a form to fill in, where you'll fill in the name of the meeting, description, date and time zone. And I'd recommend you leave this one ticked, generate automatically the meeting ID. And also these two at the bottom, which is enable your host to join, enable the participants to join before the host, which means that anybody who arrives to the meeting before you do is enabled to go into the virtual meeting room. They don't have to wait for you to arrive. So you can be late and everybody can be there waiting for you, which is great. Okay. And then mute participants upon entry. This is good to tick, because it means that if somebody does arrive late while you're talking, you don't hear a big explosion when their microphone gets turned on and everybody's shouting and screaming in the background. So it mutes their microphone so it doesn't interrupt you. And then we have record the meeting automatically on the local computer. So if you're using this for teaching, this is a really good thing to do. It means every time you start a session, it's going to get recorded. And anybody who doesn't make the class, there'll be a recording there for them to catch up with. Now, when you press save, it's going to open up this form on the far side, on the right-hand side. And here you're given the URL for joining the meeting. And this is just a link. So you can copy that link to the clipboard. You can paste it into your email. You can paste it into Slack or whatever application you're going to use to contact all the people who are going to join the meeting. There's also calendar options and mailing options. So you've set up your meeting and now it's time to go live. You're going to host the meeting. You are the host. Let's have a look at a couple of features in here. First thing I point out is there's two different views. We have speaker view and gallery view. Now, when you're in speaker view, you'll see that there's a highlighted box around the person that's speaking. And when you're in gallery view, which you can change by going to the top right-hand corner and clicking the button, speaker view or gallery view. In gallery view, you get to see everybody who's in the meeting in a big grid. And if there's more people than fit on the screen, you just get a page turn. Some other options are pin and spotlight. So if you're in speaker view, you can pin a certain person so that they're always visible. In speaker view, what happens is the person that's speaking is brought to the center of the view. Now you can have 3 or 4 people in speaker view, but you can't have 49, for example. So you could decide to spotlight the keynote speaker and maybe pin 1 or 2 other people. And then if you get questions from the audience, that's the one that chops in and out. So if you're in a meeting and you discover that you needed to invite somebody, you can invite them while you're in the meeting. And it'll just give you an email option, and this is the type of email it'll generate, and you can send them an invite and they can get in pretty quickly. If you haven't decided to automatically record your meeting, you'll see a record button. So now you can press record manually and you'll get a stop and pause afterwards. But you're going to be managing your participants, and you'll get a list of everybody who's in the meeting. And next to each person, you'll see the microphone and the video, and you can turn those off for anybody. You can't turn them on, but you can turn them off. And you might decide to mute everybody if it's getting really noisy, or if there's somebody with their speakers up and it gets very loud. Muting all enables you to turn everybody off so that you get rid of that big feedback loop, which is always a problem when you have lots of people with microphones and speakers. There's also more options, but you can take a look at those later. Not particularly important. Chat. If Zoom is the only application you're using, you'll want to enable everybody to chat in here. But if you are using another application like Slack and Zoom is embedded in it, which is the way I'm using it, I want to turn off chat so that all the chat happens inside of Slack. So this is how you turn it off. Important features, you might want to share a presentation or an application or do a demo. So you're going to be using the share screen feature. And we've got 3 levels here, 3 tabs. At the basic level, you can do each one of your desktops. So a desktop is considered a monitor. So if you have 2 monitors, you'll have desktop 1 and 2, 3 monitors, desktop 1, 2, and 3. There's also a built-in whiteboard, and it's collaborative, so people can write on the whiteboard. Again, you can change the permissions on that. You can also share the screen on your iPad or your iPhone if you have those connected. But one you'll use probably a bit more is sharing an application window. So if you want to share something in your browser or a program that you're trying to demonstrate, you can just share the program. You don't have to share the entire screen, so nobody sees your messy desktop, for example. There's also the advanced level, and at the advanced level, you can share a second camera. You can share just a portion of the screen, and you can share music, computer sound only. Now, to get the advanced level options, you have to be on the advanced plan, as far as I know. The files then, we have Google Drive, OneDrive, and Dropbox. So I've shown the dialog boxes at the bottom that you get for the first 2 options there. In addition, there's an up arrow here, which allows you to go into a little bit more sharing options or settings. So when you're sharing, you can decide, is it only me that is allowed to share, or can everybody in the meeting share their screen? So that's the first option. And then the second option is, if somebody is sharing, who can share after them? Is it only the host, or is it everybody in the room? Because that could get quite messy. So I'd recommend maybe all participants for the first and only host for the second. Part of selecting what you're going to share, you can decide to share the computer sound on that device. So for example, here I'm sharing my iPhone, and I've decided that I want you to be able to hear the sound on the iPhone as well as look at the picture. So I'd have to tick this box. If you're going to have video, you need to optimize the screen share option for a video clip. So you tick that if you're going to have video inside of what you're sharing. Beware though, that it needs more processing power. Once you've done and selected what you want to share, you click the share button, and then sharing starts. Everybody will see this menu at the top of their screen, and it gives you a couple of more options. One of them is annotate. So annotating can be by the host, but it can also be by the participants. If you can annotate, you're going to see this menu option where you can choose whether it's a pencil or text or whatever it is you want to demonstrate on screen. When you're finished annotating, you're going to click when you're finished sharing and you want to stop sharing, click this Stop Share button. And that can be quite hard to find on a busy screen, so I'm just highlighting where it is. Almost there. We've gone through most of the options. When your meeting is about to come to an end, you will decide to click the End Meeting. And at that point, the meeting is finished. Everybody gets thrown out of the room. And what will happen is if you are recording, the recording will start to render on your computer and be converted into an MP4 file. It'll also create an audio MP3 file as well. And that's it. That's the Zoom Quick Start.